So eProject Builder is a secure web-based system for tracking and reporting energy projects such as ESPCs, UESCs, appropriations funded, all kinds of projects. And it's free for ESCOs, utilities, and their customers to use, and it's been developed and will continue to be maintained by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab with funding from the U.S. Department of Energy. eProject Builder enables ESCOs and their customers to preserve their data, track and report their project and their MMD or performance assurance information in perpetuity. So it's a centralized website that your team can use. Basically, it's free IT infrastructure. It generates data and reports on your portfolio of projects. You can use eProject Builder to develop project scenarios using standardized calculations that are part of our Excel-based data template, which we'll take a look at in some depth in a bit. And then there's a tool on the site that allows you to look at some aggregated statistics on a database of over 6,000 projects. These are historic projects, not projects in eProject Builder, but they do provide some useful statistics that you could benchmark a proposed project against, and we'll look at that quickly toward the end of this training. It is standardizing energy project data, the types of data that are collected and reported across all markets and across ESCOs and regions to provide better analysis. So the idea is that it would enable a robust analysis and reporting of your program or your portfolio for building confidence in ESPC, as I mentioned. And a really critical piece of eProject Builder is preservation of data. So, we've heard from agencies, both in the federal, state, local sectors, if you've got an ESPC that's a few years old and there's some staff turnover, the new staff comes in and they see they're making payments for something, but they've lost the records, or it was in someone's computer or something, and how do they know what they're paying for? So having these projects stored on a central location in perpetuity through staff turnover is a really valuable benefit. If, for example, your organization does go through a change of staff, you can simply notify us and we can reassign the ownership of your projects to the new staff. And a key piece, one thing that some ESCOs have actually commented on that they like about eProject Builder is that it empowers the agencies themselves by providing their access to their own portfolio of projects, their own data. And then finally, the whole process is contributing to developing a more granular and representative database of projects for project benchmarking. And I'll stop here to mention that at no time will eProject Builder ever release any information or reveal any information about individual projects or organizations, ESCOs, agencies, etc. If at any time when there's aggregate information provided, which we're not doing with eProject Builder yet, but what we do for this historic database of projects, it's only aggregate data that to be used for benchmarking. So we'll talk a little bit more about the security and the access in a couple of minutes. Quick overview of the eProject Builder components. There's two key system components. There is the Excel-based data template, which the ESCO uses to develop scenarios for projects, and then that template's actually used to enter the data and upload it to populate a project in the system. And then there is, of course, the online system where this data resides, and additional documents can be uploaded to projects. This project data can be accessed, MMD data can be added, and then the project can be tracked through its performance period. Then we've done a lot in terms of security on eProject Builder. First, of course, it's an HTTPS site, which means it's an encrypted web protocol. And then for account security, we've developed a two-step login, which you may have seen on other high-security e-commerce sites. So what happens is when you log in to the website, you'll enter your email address and your password, and then another little box pops up and says, please check your email for an extra authorization code that you have to enter every time you log in. And this prevents, for example, if someone has left an ESCO or an agency, they no longer have access to the email address that they created their eProject Builder account with, they won't have access to the data from their old previous company. And then we've been doing a lot of work around vulnerability testing, hacking, that kind of stuff, and remediation of any kinds of vulnerability risks. And we've done that in two ways. We have National Lab IT security scans, both regular and random. And then we hired, and we continue to retain, a third-party government cybersecurity expert who scans and gives us any kinds of vulnerability reports and remediation recommendations. And eProject Builder has actually maintained a 0, NextPose 7, for any of you security geeks out there, risk score of 0 since May of 2015. So our security expert says it's really basically one of the most secure websites he's ever run across in government. So we'll talk a bit about the roles of the users of eProject Builder. The three primary users are typically the customer, or what we call the project initiator, and the ESCO may be the utility in the case of UESC or other energy services provider. We call that the project builder. And then we have these third-party folks that have read-only access when granted. We call them project viewers. So the project initiator role is all about initiating and approving the project. So both the project initiator and project builder need to have accounts in eProject Builder before a project is initiated. But basically, once a project has an ESCO selected, that's when you can initiate it in eProject Builder. So the project initiator goes into EPB, fills out a few fields, which include the name of the project, the zip code, the market segment, and then the email of whoever's going to play the project builder role. And that takes less than a minute to initiate in the system. And then, the customer and the ESCO are going to iterate probably offline as the IGA proceeds. And then once the customer and ESCO are ready for the ESCO to input some data into the system, the ESCO may be inputting data to generate some proposal schedules that they may want to drop into a proposal or send to the customer. But in any case, once the ESCO uploads some data and clicks the Submit button, the customer can then review that data and decide whether or not it's time to approve it and commit it to the database. So that's the customer role. And then the customer can also invite these third-party project viewers to view. By default, every project can only be accessed by one customer account and one ESCO account. So that's another security feature. But they can invite these third-party project viewers to have read-only access. We like to use a tennis analogy where the ball goes back and forth. It starts with the customer who initiates the project, and when the customer initiates a project, an email is generated and sent automatically to the ESCO, letting that person know that a project is available. Then the ESCO can, when they're ready, upload data. They fill in the data template. They upload the data. They can generate financial schedules as they need to for proposals. And then when the time is ready, in the federal sector, sometimes it's at the 60% IGA stage, or it might be at the final proposal stage. The ESCO says, these are my final numbers. I'm going to submit this on eProject Builder. Then the ball goes back to the customer's court, and the customer can review what's in eProject Builder, make sure it matches with their expectations, what's been discussed, what they've received in the proposal, and then the customer approves it. If once the customer approves the project, it's locked for editing or changes. Actually, once the ESCO submits a project, it's locked for changes. If a project needs to be modified, the customer then unlocks it, which then sends the ball back to the court of the ESCO, who can then modify the data or upload a new replacement template. And like the customer, the ESCO can invite these third-party folks who have to have an account on eProject Builder first, but then they can add them as project viewers to their projects. Here's just a quick look at the login page. We'll talk about this in a few minutes. Project summary page. Each person in eProject Builder who has projects in the system will have a summary of their projects, and we'll look at that page in depth in a bit. And each project has its own dashboard with where documents are uploaded, financial schedules are archived, and actions can be done. We'll also look in a few minutes at the Excel-based data template that the ESCO uses to enter and upload the data. And we'll take a very quick look at the MMD module, which is available once a project is in eProject Builder, has been submitted by the ESCO, approved by the customer, and is basically in the performance period. The MMD module then becomes available for the ESCO to add annual MMD data. We'll also briefly touch on this benchmarking tool, which, as I mentioned, accesses aggregated data from the LBNL NIESCO database of over 6,000 projects. Again, these are projects that are not in eProject Builder. They're a historic database that LBNL and the National Association of Energy Service Companies have been compiling for many years. A lot of the data comes from NIESCO accreditation applicants, and also some states have provided data. And it's a very rich source of information that LBNL and NIESCO use to do industry analysis, and then we do have this cool little benchmarking tool that gives you some statistics on this historic database. It's not super granular, so ultimately down the road, the idea is that eProject Builder will be able to provide more granular kinds of aggregate statistics on what's happening by market and maybe by ECM type, things like that. So just a recap of the workflow, the customer and the ESCO both register. Upon ESCO selection, the customer can then initiate the project. It takes less than a minute for the customer to initiate the project. And part of that initiation involves entering the ESCO contact's email. The system then notifies the ESCO that the project is there. When the ESCO is ready to upload project data, they do so using the template. They can then submit that information for the customer review in eProject Builder. Once that happens, an email is generated to the customer that says this project's ready for your review. And then the customer can decide whether to approve it and commit it to the database, or if it needs more changes, they can unlock it. Once the project is archived in the database and at final proposal stage, you can still mod it later, but at that time the M&V module becomes available and the ESCO can start entering annual M&V data when it becomes available. If you want to sign up for eProject Builder, go to eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov and click the Request an Account link, if you can see that little arrow there. And there's actually two different websites that you can get access to. If you're a customer, an ESCO utility, and you will be using eProject Builder to enter or approve project data, you definitely want to get an account on the main site, which is eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov. That's where the actual project data will be entered. If you are a facilitator or a trainer or someone who's just going to be helping teams, you can learn how eProject Builder works by getting an account on the training site, whose URL is epb-test.lbl.gov. And if you get an account on the training site, anyone can get an account if you just want to learn how EPB works and play around with it on your own. You actually get both an ESCO and customer type account there so that you can go through the whole cycle of initiating and entering data and approving projects. But you do have to request your account from eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov. Template is available on the eProject Builder website. You can download it from the help page, or whether you're logged in or logged out, you can access it. And before I dive in, I'll say we have 3 different versions of the template. Most people are probably going to use 2 of them. One of them, the one that we're looking at now, is the default version. It's a template that provides standardized calculations that will generate your payment schedule, your guaranteed savings, basically the whole financial schedules for your project. If you can't use how our template calculates, and I'll point out one main reason why in a little bit, there's an override version of the template which doesn't do any of the calculations. you have to fill in everything manually, but it's very flexible. So if you just don't have the data, or you don't need that kind of data, let's say you're a state and you only have certain kinds of data that you want to collect, you can use the override template to collect that information. So going through this, this default version of the template, you see that there's some yellow fields and some gray fields. So the yellow fields indicate the spaces where the ESCO can fill in information. And the gray fields indicate fields that don't need to be filled in for one of two reasons. Number one, the information may already exist in the database with the project that you're going to upload this to. So for example, customer and ESCO are not, you can't fill it in on the template because that information, all of their contact information already exists with the project that's been initiated. So when this template with this data is uploaded to that project, the information in the template is married to the contact information for the customer and the ESCO. Other reasons why there's a gray cells in this template is the template provides standardized calculations and fills in some of this information for you. The annual cost savings and payment schedule. So here's where you can see where the calculating template does a lot of the work for you if you let it. We've got all of the estimated annual cost savings, the guaranteed annual cost savings, and the annual payments here are calculated for you based on a lot of other inputs into the template. The only thing in this version of the template that calculates for you, the only thing the ESCO needs to fill in are things happening during the implementation period, or what some people call year zero. So if you're going to count any estimated savings, any guaranteed savings, and if you're going to make any payments during the implementation period, you can enter that information here, and they will count in your overall calculations. We also have a column here for annual dollar savings retained by the customer, or what some people might call net savings, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. So now we're going to jump to Schedule 2A, which is the implementation price by energy conservation measure. We use ECM as a generic term for all measures. Obviously, there might be some non-energy measures included. So we do have a few of these fields that are in red text with an asterisk. The first one here is a drop-down list of technology categories. So you simply need to go to the list and choose from a long list of energy categories. And then if you've got some non-energy ECMs or measures, you can choose from what's called future/other. But I think they're pretty much all here. And ECM number, excuse me, ECM number is an optional field. You can number your ECMs however you like. ECM description/title, this gives you a lot of leeway to describe your ECMs. It's a free text field. You can, for example, describe something about the equipment installed, some kind of detail, or which buildings this particular measure was installed in, or things of that nature. So we really recommend that you use this descriptive field to its fullest. The pricing is broken into two components. One is called cost of goods and services, or base construction, and one is called project implementation delivery charge. So if you're a federal IDIQ project or Army Corps or any of the federal folks that are required to use this, you must break your pricing into these two pieces. If you're state and local and you don't need ESCO to break the pricing up this way, you can simply fill in one and put 0 in the other, but we really do recommend, if you can, to break it up this way by ECM. This gives us the baseline and savings by ECM. And what's nice is it carries everything over from Schedule 2, including however you numbered the ECMs and a sort of truncated description of your ECM so you can keep everything straight. We do require that you include the first year M&V option, whatever it's going to be used. And we are working on making this eProject Builder more customized for UESC as well, and so we'll be adding performance assurance to this at some point for UESC projects. For now, you could use other as an option. And here are the fields. I didn't fill anything in here, but here are the fields where you would fill in your baseline by ECM. We've got electricity. We've got electricity demand, as the person asked, for baseline, natural gas. And then we've got, I don't know if you recall, but when we were on the escalation rate schedule, we chose propane and diesel from the drop-down list for the additional fuels, and so those are automatically carried over here as well. And then we have baseline water use, energy, so a combination of the energy and resource costs, the baseline costs, baseline O&M if these apply, and baseline other non-energy costs. So we don't have any asterisks, any red text with asterisks on these because we don't know which of these applies to each ECM, but certainly if you're a federal project, you'll need to fill in the baseline per ECM information here, and it will total at the bottom for you. Then over here we have the savings. We've got, first of all, the energy savings in one section and then the non-energy savings in another. So here's where you enter both the resource, the estimated first-year resource savings for electric, and then the cost savings, and then each of the different resource types has a resource amount and a cost amount that you can fill in. And I think for the person who asked about demand, we do have a little guidance down here because it's been confusing. So what do you mean by, demand savings? So we have a little tip down here. We have tips at the bottom of each of the schedules that in this case the user should enter an average monthly kilowatt reduction figure. So since demand savings, usually vary by season, so that's our guidance here. And while I'm down at the bottom of this schedule, I want to point out that every schedule also has a field for additional notes, so you can make additional comments about what's in that schedule. I'm going to scroll back up. By the way, we have 250 rows here for you to enter ECMs. If your project has more than 250, let us know, and we'll figure out a workaround for you. So over here we've got the savings, and they are totaled. All of the savings are automatically converted to MMBTU annually, and then we total the energy cost savings here, so you have those numbers for your energy savings. And then we've got water, O&M, and other non-energy savings here. And then all of the annual cost savings are totaled here. And then we bring over the implementation price from Schedule 2A, and we total them all at the bottom. And then we have a handy little calculation here of simple payback time. So if you're using this as a scenario tool or even as your final calculations, it's a really great way to see how bundling shorter and longer payback measures can really result in a very reasonable payback time overall for the project. So that's the cost savings and baseline schedule. Now I'm going to jump back to Schedule 3, the performance period cash flow. That might be a little small. Let me make it a little bigger for you. So this schedule captures everything that's going on during the performance period, and that's the period, of course, after project acceptance and when the project is generating the annual savings. So up here we've got a section called Debt Service Performance Period Payments. So in this version of the template that does the calculations for you, it's calculating your principal repayment, interest, and total debt service. But it's got the yellow cells where the ESCO can fill in. This is a really important one. Any payments or positive cash flow coming in to the facilities as a result of this project. So it may be RECs, it may be maybe some cities actually include installation of new parking meters. They can replace their broken parking meters, and they've got some increased cash flow from that. Or maybe you're installing some sub-metering, and you're now able to charge utility costs to your tenants. So any kind of positive cash flow can be put in here and factored into the financial calculations. And then this one I touched on earlier when we were on Schedule 1, the dollar savings retained by customer or net savings. You actually have the option of choosing what those are and having that factor into the calculations. So for example, if you want to make sure that you retain enough savings so that you can spend $20,000 on something else, you can put $20,000 in here and it will develop the calculations based on that. Down here, performance period expenses, these are the costs to the customer of services provided by the ESCOs during the performance period. So they may be paying the ESCO to do management and administration. M&V is very likely, so you can fill in however many years of M&V you plan to do, the amounts there. There's some other kinds of expenses that might come up, insurance, permits, things like that. Those get all filled in here. We do require that you fill in something for M&V, so if for some reason the ESCO is not providing that, maybe you're getting a third party, you can simply put in 0 and that works. Now, you can also fill in formulas here. So let's say your M&V is going to be a certain amount in year 1, and maybe it's going to increase year by year. So you can just add that factor, and then you can just drag and fill with your formulas. So I'm logging on to the EPB Test Site. If you're doing real project entry, you'll of course use eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov. This way I can show you both the customer and the ESCO side of things. So I'm going to log in with my customer account first. And here's the two-step verification code coming right up. So now I need to go check my email and get the code. And it usually takes just a couple of seconds to get the code, although earlier today it took maybe 30 seconds, so it might vary. But there we go. Submit that code that I got from my email. All right, I'm now logged in as a customer, and I can do basically two things. I can look at my projects and do things with those, or I can initiate a new project. So we'll start by looking at what's in there already. So I can click here, or I can always click wherever I am in the website. I can click any of these links at the top. So we'll click Project Summary. Now I've got a lot of test projects in here. So let me point out a few things about this page. I can enter a new project from this page as well as the home page. I can also download the project template if I want to check it out. But if I am a customer project initiator, and I'm not the project builder, I'm not the ESCO, I can't actually upload project data using the template. Only the designated ESCO or project builder on the project can upload data to a project. I can also deliver one of those outputs. I can download CSV files with all of the data in all of these projects that are in approved status into a CSV for my own analysis. A couple of things to also notice here. There's a little search bar. Once you have a lot of projects in here and you're looking for something specific, you may want to search. So let's see. I'll just search. I gave a demo to California yesterday, so I'll just search California. There we go. So that search tool comes in handy once you have a lot of projects in there. So a couple things to notice here is that some of my projects most of them here actually are clickable here. They've got a blue clickable link under the project name, but some of them don't. This one here I can't do anything on, and that's because it has a different status. So there are 3 different statuses for projects in eProject Builder. This one is in pending status, and what that means is I have initiated the project as the customer. An email went to my ESCO, and they should know that it's in here, but the ESCO hasn't yet uploaded any data. They haven't submitted it for my review. So it's in pending status. I can't go into it. I can't add data to it. I can't even see what's in there because there's nothing in there yet. So I'm waiting for the ESCO to do something. I've got a lot of approved projects in here, and what that means is that the ESCO has submitted it, and I approved it, and that archived the schedules and committed them to the database. Down here at the bottom, I have a project that's in pre-approval status. What that means is the ESCO submitted the data, and it's now waiting for the customer to review and approve it. So I can access the pre-approval information. And in fact, I will go to that right now. So let's say, I just got an email from my ESCO that says, I have submitted DGS demo project, 22 Feb. and I want to review it. So I click on the name of the project, and it's going to take me to the project dashboard. So the project dashboard gives us a bit of information about the project here in the upper left for identification. In the center top, it gives us the status. And this status changes depending on what's going on with your project and whether you're the ESCO or the customer. So right now it says it's in pre-approval status. I can view the financial schedules or approve the project. And it gives me a big button over here on sort of one of the next steps I can take. But I haven't seen the schedules yet. I want to review them. So under the action menu, I can do a number of things. I can view project details. That's actually not a very useful tool, to be honest, because it doesn't provide all of the data that I want to look at. That just looks at some of the fields online. So what I want to do is look at the project financial schedules. I can either save them on my hard drive as a PDF, or I can look at them online, and just for demo purposes, we'll do that. So I'm going to click that one there, and it's going to bring up the financial schedules for this project. Kind of a little concise version of the data template that we looked at. So we've got all of the summary information here from the summary schedule. We've got the escalation rate schedule, the cost savings and payments, and moving down to Schedule 2A, the implementation price by measure, Schedule 2B if we're using it, that's all filled in, and Schedule 3. So what I can do is review this in detail online, or I can download a PDF to view or share. Let's say I've reviewed it and I think this is fine. It matches with what I've seen the ESCO provide in the proposal. It matches what we discussed. All the payment schedules look right. So I'm ready to approve it. And I simply click the Approve Project button. And I get one more chance to view the schedules if I want. And then I can approve it. So what this is going to do is change this DGS demo project from pre-approval to approved status. So I'll show how that works. And it's also going to send an email to both myself and the ESCO indicating that I approved it. Great. So I'm just going to search for DGS, find it. So now we see that it's an approved status. And what's also happened is the MMD status now opens up, and the MMD module is now available for the ESCO to add data. And I'll show you that in a little bit. I'm going to show you, if you want to unlock a project, you can go under the Actions column here. Let's say we've got an approved project here, and I say, you know what, we need to do a mod on this one, so I'm going to unlock it. And that sends it immediately back to pending. I can no longer access the data because it's now up to the ESCO to either re-upload a replacement template or change the data in some way. I'm going to show you how to enter a new project now pretty quick. So we're going to click the Enter New Project button, and let's say we're just going to call it EPB General Demo 23 Feb 2018. And market segment, we've got a list of market segments to choose from. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you the federal government because that opens up another window if you choose federal, and you have to choose the federal contract type. So let's say it's going to be an enable. We'll make it an enable project, and then I'm going to give it, let's give it Berkeley's email address. Now this is important. So here's where you name who the project builder role is going to be filled by, and this person needs to already have an account in eProject Builder. So if I just put in an email from someone that's not in the system and I try and create the project, it doesn't work. It says it can't find that account in the system. So I'm going to enter my real ESCO account address, create project, and voila. So if I do a little search, it's probably somewhere at the bottom of the list. There we go. It's there. It's in pending status. And if I, like I said, if I want to download all the projects as a CVS, it will only download the approved ones. But I can do that. I just click that button, and it brings up a window that'll let me save it onto my hard drive. I'm going to log out and log in as an ESCO now. Oh, there we go. Oh, it was still doing the download. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to re-log in as my ESCO account and show you that side of things. And I need to go get the authorization code from my email. Came in right away. Oh, and when you enter your authorization code, it's really important to just copy and paste it without any spaces. That I think sometimes people have a little trouble if they capture a space or something in there, so just copy and paste it. So I'm now logged in as an ESCO, and I can do a number of things. I could apply for an ISCO accreditation if I'm up for, if my round is up, or DOE qualified list of ESCOs. I can download a blank template. I can also manage my existing projects. And if I click this link, it's the same as going to the project summary. Now as an ESCO, I can also initiate a new project. Typically, projects will be initiated by the customer and then the data filled out by an ESCO. But in the case where an ESCO is applying for NISCO accreditation, they may need to initiate a whole bunch of projects that they're going to submit for accreditation. And these are projects that have been in the performance period for at least a year, if not longer. So they are allowed to do that as well. But for this demo, we're going to show you how the ESCO approves the project submitted by a customer, or sorry, initiated by a customer. So we've got, let's see, we're going to find, we can do a lot of the same things as an ESCO. We can view financial schedules, both from the actions column or from the dashboard. But what I want to show you is how to upload a project. So here we have a pending project, and I'm ready to upload a template. So I can either upload the template from this actions column on the right, or I can go to the dashboard. And so we'll go to the dashboard. All right, so I can do such things as view project financial schedules, but right now there's nothing in there. So I'm going to upload a data template. So I can click the upload template. I can choose a file from my hard drive. And let's use the January 18 demo one because I know it's complete. Great, and I click the upload button here. So this is a template that we just were looking at and that I already had filled out. And it takes a few seconds to populate. And then what happens is the ESCO is taken to what we call the details view. And this is the user interface where you can kind of page through all of the input cells. Those were the yellow cells in the template, and then ECM level fields as well. So you can actually modify the data that you uploaded here in the user interface. And then if we want to view the financial schedules, let's say I'm an ESCO and I say, well, this is my kind of first crack at a proposal. I'd like to send this to the customer. I can download it as a PDF onto my hard drive and then email it to the customer. Or I can do what we did a second ago at the customer and view it online as I wish. And let's say I'd like to submit, let's say this is my final proposal. I'm ready to submit this, or the customer's asked me to submit it online. I simply go to, now we can see that our project status now says it's 100% data complete and available to be submitted. So I can go to the submit button and submit project for approval. And so this Test Liz California is going to change from pending to pre-approval status. So let's find that. Oh, let me hunt for California. I have a lot that have Test Liz. There we go. So it's now in pre-approval status. And what happened is an email was sent to customers saying, ESCO has submitted this project and it's ready for your review. One thing I'll point out is the download the project template button here. You can download the default template by clicking this big turquoise button. If you want to get the override version of the template, you can open that up and go to advanced options. and get the override template. There's also a legacy template, which is just a slightly simplified version of the override template. But you can use either of these to enter some legacy data if you'd like. And the templates are also available on the help page, which I'll show you now. And the help and documentation page is here, and it's available whether you're logged in or not. So you can access all this information even if you don't have an account on eProject Builder. So we've got information on training webinars coming up. We've got the data templates available here. And important to point out, here is a user guide to the template. It's right here under the new project template. We also have a bunch of training documentation, a getting started guide, a guide to the analysis and reporting feature. We also have some eProject Builder fact sheet and an overview presentation. And then down here we have links to a lot of very short, for the most part, training videos that remind you sort of how to do things, such as view your project summary or look at your project financial schedules. And then we have a sort of a 1-hour demonstration webinar here on demand. With the few minutes we have left, I also want to show you a little bit about, actually, I'm going to show you a little bit about the MMD module because we do have time for that. So I'm going to go back to our project summary page. So for projects that are in approved status, the MMD feature is available. So I'm going to go to any of these that are in approved status. We'll choose School District 1 here. And you can see that this project has been approved and the financial schedules have been archived here right under this little section. You can also upload additional documents. Both customers and ESCOs can upload documents to this dashboard, and they can stay here in perpetuity. And I can now add MMD data. So for this project, you can see the project status tells me that it's ready to allow me to add MMD data. So I'm going to give a quick overview of this. So we've got a table here that shows however many years of MMD data you as the ESCO have started to enter. So I can add a performance year. Let's say I want to add, I'm ready to add year 2 performance data. So I simply click the performance year button and I add year 2 from the list, and it only gives me the number of performance years that are in the contract. So I can add that here. So once I add a performance year, it lets me add data in any number of categories. We've got a lot of contact information here. If there's a third-party verifier, any MMD specialists, key dates, and there is one that has a red asterisk. That is the MMD report date, and that is a required field. If there's any lost savings opportunity, you can fill in information about there. And then you add your ECM level savings information. So for each ECM, we pre-populate whatever MMD option you listed in the proposal. You can enter the agency MMD witnessed, the person and what date they witnessed. You can adjust the baseline information if you need to. And then you enter the verified savings. And it's pre-populated based on the proposal, but you'll want to overwrite these with the kinds of data that you actually got from your MMD report. So going back to the MMD summary, we can see that for this project, there is a post-installation verification hasn't been submitted yet, but I did actually submit year 1. It's in pre-approval status, so when the customer logs into this project, they can actually review year 1 and approve it just in the same way a project is approved. And then you can also view an MMD report for each of the performance years. And going back to the project dashboard, you can also view a cumulative MMD report as an HTML file or download it as a PDF. I'm going to show you very quickly a little bit about the analysis and reporting tool. So this lets you generate graphs and tables on your portfolio of projects, and it's got 3 basic functions. We have a library of what we call canned reports. So these are just some general reports that folks have told us they would find useful to have handy. And if you choose one, you can then edit it further. Or you can start by setting up your own query yourself. And each category of fields, you can click on those and get a bunch of fields and drag them over into the query editor, and it works pretty much like a pivot table. And then you can save my favorites. Probably the best way to get started is to start with a basic query. So for example, I'll drag this one over. We'll do this one. So all projects by award date and contract term. So I'm just going to, under the Run button, I'll just generate a table here. And it shows me basically all of my approved projects, what the award date is, and if there's no award date, it shows as empty, and what the contract term is, and then account for each. Here's a nice one. We can do projects by state and city with implementation costs and guaranteed savings. So for my small number of approved projects in here, we can see I've got some. And these are just dummy projects, so I put a lot of different zip codes in here to get some different cities, and then the project names, the implementation costs, and the dollar equivalent of annual guaranteed savings. And we have a bug where it's not displaying the dollar sign, so I've entered that as a ticket. Then if we want, we could, let's say I want to know, well, gosh, what are the market sectors for these? So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go over to the query editor. And so the query editor has populated this with the query that generated this table. And let's say I want to add market segment. I'm going to go under the project category here, or I can just start typing, and it will find that field for me. And I'm going to drag it over here. Let's put it after state, and let's put it at the top. So I'm going to click the table again, and that will run my table. And now we can see that we've added the market segment. We can see by market segment, state, city, project name, etc. This tool is pretty deep and pretty complex, so that's why we created the canned queries for starters. And we do have a basic guide to using it, and we're going to release a much more extensive guide to the analysis and reporting feature soon, as well as a more extensive guide to the MMD module soon. All right, great. Thank you all so much. And just remember, we're here to help. We're here to make it easy for you, so don't hesitate to contact us at EPB-support@lbl.gov for technical support and questions.